pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, we'll start with you, Sue.
Stu Condit. Erin Delfino.
Robert Carr.
Stacy Jen.
Vinnie Canadella. Mike Russo.
Debbie Shaw.
Okay, do we have any amendments to the agenda?
Amendment, I'd like to add discussion of the Quaker Farm status to the agenda for tonight.
I'll second. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
You want to move that for the 10-year package?
Yes.
So we'll be for the 10-year package.
At this time, any comments from the audience of citizens? Any residents? Please stand up, give your name.
Margaret Albert, 311 Elwood Drive, Oxford. Well, not Oxford. Sorry. I just wanted to discuss what's going on with both Quaker Farms and Goes. I have children in both. I taught in Waterbury, or student taught in Waterbury and in Oxford back in the day. And Oxford was a very nice town with lovely things, and Waterbury not so much. But Waterbury, I gotta say, beats the heck out of Quaker Farms right now and Goes, with the hole in the ceiling, the water in the computer lab, all of the things that are going on. And I think all of this was very avoidable. They knew 10 years ago that the heating system was going to need to be replaced. And I don't know why our children are paying the price and going to be going to school now until January 17th. Not to mention that in Goes, we're just going to school with no heat in some of the classrooms, and we're just going to other bathrooms. And I don't know that everybody in this room or in this town knows that this is happening. But I'm upset hearing this, that, you know, the children, the 4th and 5th graders can't use their bathrooms because they have to go to the 3rd grade. That it's so cold in their room, you know, they're putting their coats back on and stuff like that. This shouldn't be happening. This is Oxford, you know, there's no reason for this. This should have been handled years ago. And I'm sad. I'm really sad to see this. This is not Quaker Farms that I was student teaching in. You know, I never was in Goes, but yeah, this is just not what our children deserve, really, you know, and not that children in any town deserve any of this, but yeah, I have to say, we're really missing the mark, and this is really sad. So that's all. Thank you. I know it's not the fault of people on the school board, but here I am, and hopefully people in the town are also hearing this Board of Finance. I'm hoping it's getting this, and I'm hoping that George will. Hopefully he'll catch the live stream. Thank you all.
Thank you. Any other audience citizens? Hearing none. I guess we'll move for Dr. Marino for an update.
Yes, Mike, want to go?
You have an update on the QFS?
Sure, thank you. Sure. So, as people are aware, we had an event on Saturday into Sunday night. The pipes froze. The boiler system was functioning, but it was not circulating real hot water to the pipes, and they froze during the historic freeze that we had. So, we mobilized many different vendors and many different disciplines. We've been able to reestablish the domestic water pipes this afternoon. So there is now potable water running, and facilities are functioning. The power obviously was reestablished, and we are warming the building with ancillary heat because we can't run the heating loop, because the heating loop has fractures in it. We were abandoning this heating loop, planning on doing that over the summer with the brand new system that's being installed. So we are putting forth every effort to get the new system fully functional and abandoning the old heating system that was struggling. We hope to have that done over the weekend. And in order to do that, we need to have the new power source from Eversource, the new transformer installed. And there's been some delays from Eversource and some challenges, but we're trying to work through that. As a stopgap measure to do that, we will probably have a, outside generator that will be running so that we can power that system up. That system is about, 60% complete, and we're making every effort for the remainder to get completed. Like I said, over the weekend, it is, that remainder is about 80% complete. So we're hopeful that we can get that done. And then, we will have our regulars in the school. The sprinkler system also suffered fractures, and we have some vendors coming in to give us assessments on that. We already received one. We have some estimates as to what it will cost to get that back together and running. I've spoken with the fire chief in Oxford, and Chief Pelletier has told me how we can go about doing a fire watch while kids are in the school, or while people are in school, I should say. And so we have a strategy for that. But as of right now, as I speak, we have warmed the building, and most of the pipes have thawed out. There are still some more that need to thaw out, and as they do, we are repairing them and remediating any of the water. The water was shut off shortly after we discovered the issue on Sunday morning, and the systems were drained with water, so it's mitigated any kind of major massive flooding. What this resident had referenced in terms of the computer room, that was the initial break that we discovered on Sunday, and that carpeting was extracted within 2 hours, and the pipe was repaired, and that's no longer an issue for that area.
So in terms of like the fire watch, you know, how much is per fireman, and how much is that gonna cost for the amount of time they have to do the fire watch?
Chief Pelletier gave us an alternative to that,
Okay,
which was, while we're in the building, considering that part of the fire watch. And then we have night staff that would also be considered part of the fire watch. So a lot of that would be handled with this staff. And there's a gap, and we also have the vendor that is going to continue to do their normal work. Their normal scheduled hours were from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 2 o'clock in the morning. That was their normal shift for working on the system. So that also would count as part of the fire watch for him. So it's the hours between, say, 2 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the morning, those 4 hours. So either we would hire a firefighter as a fire watch person, or we can offer extra time to existing district staff.
and then how much would that be?
The firefighters are $55 an hour per man. Our staff is less expensive than that.
Bobby?
Mike, what was the ultimate? Okay. The boiler's been a problem at QFS for a little while. Correct? Would that be correct?
We fixed that, I guess.
Okay, so did the boiler fail because the boiler failed, or did the boiler fail because of the power outage?
Boiler did not fail. I
Okay,
want to be very clear. Boiler did not fail. There was a power interruption event that set off our emergency generator. My understanding from the town is that it was also, there was also some kind of a power interruption event at the town yard next door. I don't know the length of the power interruption. And not to get too technical, but there are 3 phases of electricity coming into the school. There are some devices that require 3 phases to run. So when there was a power interruption or
I'm talking about like.
oh, I'm sorry. When there was a power interruption or a reduction of 1 or 2 of those phases, those devices that require 3 phases will not run. There is a device that turns the circulator pumps back on. That requires 3 phases. So if there was a power interruption or a disruption of the three phases, that device did not turn back on. It went into alarm. And so therefore the circulator pumps did not circulate the hot water. The boilers were running when we got there. It was making heat. We had instructed staff to consider all of the buildings as occupied and raising the temperature in all of the buildings because of the cold event. We had individuals walking through the building every single day. Our staff was there until 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. And that power event was somewhere after that. That staff came back Sunday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, and that's when we realized that there was an issue.
So because of the cold, you've had people scheduled to go through the buildings, is that why there were people there?
That's exactly,
Sunday?
that's exactly correct. At every single building, I had custodial staff coming in every single day and checking the building.
Any other board members, questions? I just want to say thank you for the effort, you, your team, the staff. But before, I just want to say thank you from the board. It's not an ideal circumstance. We're in 65% of the way with the new HVAC project. We have Eversource for the transfer switch, which George, thank you for helping us secure them to give us a date. Because they were slow rolling and pushing it out again and again. It's not easy what you're doing, the round the clock. It's got to be hell on the team. And I just want to say thank you for the effort your team's putting in.
I'll pass that along. The team is doing a tremendous job.
Stacy, you have a question?
Well, I think my question was, if we ever have weather events like this again, could we not have 18 hours where the building doesn't have someone in it? Could we have somebody, a custodian working? Maybe we just.
I'm not sure we could have prevented it, but it would have been a quicker reaction.
Yeah.
That being said, I think being 2 days out or 3 days out now, Sunday to Tuesday, I think we've done a tremendous amount of progress to get the school back online.
Yeah, I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus. However, I think that the problem that we had at Quaker Farm School was very easily avoided. We dealt with a situation where anytime there was a power surge, circulating pumps would trip off, the breakers would trip off. And it would seem to me that rather than having them reset, the only way we could reset them is if there was a janitor or a custodian in the school. Instead of doing that, if we had, today, with the technology that there is, if one of those breakers were to trip, it would be easily, to read it off your phone. That should have been done. I'm not, like I say, it's Monday morning quarterback here, I get that. But that could have been done, it should have been done, that we don't use stopgap measures to take care of a major problem. I'm going back to my old days on submarines. We certainly anytime there was any kind of an irregularity like that, it got fixed. This isn't a fix when you're relying on people to reset that breaker. Just seems to me that we could find a breaker that doesn't work like that. Just a surge. There's not an electrician, not a plumber or anything like that. But it would seem to me like that should have been looked into. And the reason I bring it up is not criticize, but so we can learn by it. And there may be other situations that, you know, we've taken for granted that, you know, since this doesn't work, we can, you know, we can, look at another, way of doing it. Well, the way to do it is get it fixed. And, you know, I know, sometimes it's not easy getting the money to do that. But I certainly, I think I could speak for myself and Arnie, who's here, that, you know, we, and Dave, I'm sure, that we would rather have you, spend, you know, a couple of $1,000 maybe to get this to where it should be, rather than, going through what we are now.
I
And
appreciate
I
it.
would, with the, superintendent, I was in that school yesterday, and that was damn cold.
I was with you, yes. I appreciate the comments. I respectfully disagree with some of the comments that you made. I don't think anyone took it for granted. I don't think that the technology is there, and we certainly don't have the federal budget to run submarine. But I do appreciate your comments that we should invest in, finding out if there's technology available to us in order to do that. And, I think, the measures that we took have not been an issue, and this was a historic freeze and a very unusual circumstance where we had some kind of a power event that only interrupted things that were on 3 feet. So I appreciate your comments, and I agree that we should learn from this. There are some issues with some of your comments.
I appreciate your appreciation.
Thank you.
And it's a
And
good
George,
segue.
I'm sorry, if I could, the work that you did yesterday with Eversource was unbelievably fantastic. So I want to let you know that as well.
And George, your comments lead right into the next agenda. Unless we had any other questions.
Question, so can you speak about any damages or anything sustained at Great Oak? Because, you know, I know there's some frozen pipes and things, but can you speak specifically to which areas?
Sure. So the custodial office or closet area had a frozen pipe yesterday that we thawed, and then it had another frozen pipe this morning, a different pipe that broke. That was remediated and taken care of. That didn't cause any damage in any other classroom settings or didn't interrupt any of the learning experience. We also did have some frozen pipes in two bathrooms that were sink lines that were on the exterior wall of the building. And we found out that they do not have any insulation around them. We didn't know that prior to that because we didn't open up the walls. So again, that was not something that was foreseeable. And so those two bathrooms were offline for a period of time, and then our vendor, Gary Franco Plumbing, was able to get in there and fix them yesterday. So the bathrooms were back online.
Did we insulate them while you're?
Well, one,
Yes.
board, if, just, we don't want crosstalk, so Molly has the floor, and then if anyone wants to talk, just raise your hand.
With the new heating and cooling system that's been in place that goes, is it all fully online and that this could have been avoided, maybe turning up the heat a little bit? Like, I'm just curious to.
Sure. So it's all fully online, and that's exactly what my instructions were. When I say that I instructed all of our staff to make the settings as occupied, there are two different settings, occupied and unoccupied. So when it's unoccupied, it allows it to chill down a little bit, saving energy and saving costs. So my instructions were, in the impending freeze coming, make sure everything is still set on occupied. And as I went further and said, and if you know of an area that is of particular concern, increase the setting in that area so that it's even warmer. And then on top of that, we had authorized the overtime for people to come in every single day to check the things. So that area, I was not aware, I don't think anyone was aware of that particular situation, but it is fully operational.
Thank you.
Dixie?
While we're at it, anything at the middle school or the high school happen?
So yes, at this building, we had a pipe freeze in the closet next to the gym, which is familiar to everyone here. We had instructed the staff here to check everything as well, and so, the custodian here, Paul, was able to check it and mitigate the issue very quickly, and we got someone else to fix it. There is a heating element in that room with a fan. I think it was 2 months ago, we had it checked by the electrician during the December break, and everything was functioning, and everything is functioning now as well. I think it just couldn't keep up with the bitter cold.
We can keep topics just to Quaker, because that's what this agenda item is. Any other questions, any other comments? The board, gentlemen in the audience, at the end, we have an audience of citizens, and at that time, you can ask any questions.
Thank you.
So anyone else for Quaker? Hearing none. And again, George, we're going to transition to the 10-year capital improvement plan by Prior Architecture. And as we look at our infrastructure and we look at where some of our deficiencies are, we hired an independent architecture firm to do a 10-year plan. The last time it was done was 2016. And we were due for another 10-year plan. And I don't know, Dr. Marino, if you'd like to add anything before we start.
We have the gentleman, from Prior Architect, just to kind of give you background. We did the RFP back in the fall. And, we had the facilities committee, we knew this was a priority. We were coming off of 2016, 10-year plan, and, so the timing was perfect. So, we went out to, the RFP process, and, we met with Prior. We were very impressed with them. So, we moved forward, hiring them to do our 10-year study. So here this evening, they're gonna do a presentation, but also, if you look in the portal, we have the 100-page plan, detail. But you also have the PowerPoint presentation there as well. Makes it a little bit easier to understand. That's it. All yours.
Thank you, Dr. Marino. Good evening, my name is Bob Roche from Prior Architecture. Just want to give a brief introduction to our firm, and then Prior Architecture has been in business for more than 50 years, and during that time, our mainstay has been public schools and public buildings in Connecticut. We're located in Farmington, Connecticut, central to the state. We don't do much outside the state, so this has been our focus. During the past 10 years alone, we've completed facility assessments on schools in 18 different towns, over 9 million square feet of K-12 schools and 118 buildings. With your project, we were hired to do the facility needs assessment study of all your buildings, which is over 400,000 square feet for schools. So we wanted to give you a lot of information to move forward to assess the conditions of the buildings, work on a 10-year capital plan for maintenance needs for larger projects, and just put everything out so that the community knows where there are issues, where there are going to be potential projects going forward, and help you to manage that process. We started in the fall with the design team, ourselves at Prior, and our MEP engineers and consulting engineering services for the facilities, spoke with maintenance staff, spoke with district representatives, observed all the conditions of the buildings, and assembled our findings into a report for each building. So we go through the scope of architectural, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, site and code scope items. And then all of these are summarized in the beginning of each report, and then we've taken those executive summaries and compiled those into one document for you tonight. So we've tried to break it down as the highlights of the needs and conditions in each one of those scopes, and giving you some charts to illustrate where those items of need are and how the best to go about with that. So now I'm going to turn it over to Scott Mitchell, who is a licensed architect and also a building official, and Scott led the charge on this project.
So again, I'm Scott Mitchell, project architect with Prior, and talk a little bit about our findings. you know, we've identified certain number of priorities for each of the schools. These are not in any particular order, but these are the 10 of the larger issues that we've unearthed. So, one, being the fire alarm control panel and upgrade for Quaker Farms, because it's an older fire alarm control panel. We saw earlier, well, late this year in December, with the electrical strike that goes, that equipment is no longer available on the marketplace to service the panels that are in some of the older schools. So that became a priority so that we can get the fire alarm panel going, find serviceable parts. Upgrading the generator and electrical service at Great Oaks. There are two electrical power circuits at goes. One is the 480, one is the 207 circuit. They don't play very nicely together. So the upgrades to combining that and providing a generator that can support the entire building under one electrical system is certainly advantageous to the town. Certainly, we are aware that there are electrical and heat issues at Quaker Farms, as has been previously discussed. There are concerns with the oil pump and line sets at the high school here with water infiltrating the tank, issues that causes with the filters due to rusting and steel lines, causing potential issues with the boilers at this building. There is concern with the athletic fields, both the natural turf at the West Field, soccer field, and the synthetic turf around the track and the football field, due to some drainage issues that need to be addressed. The gymnasium floor at Great Oaks is original to 1976. It's 50 years old at this point, and needs to be looked at. And certainly since its inception, the roof at the middle school has had issue. At the high school, we're getting to the 20-year mark, especially with the roof. So we were recommending that we prioritize starting a schedule of roof replacements, perhaps not doing the entire school at once, but phasing that over a number of years to disperse costs and get the roof replaced before it becomes unserviceable. And then there's concern here at the high school at the loading dock. It's been reported that there at one point there was a loading truck that backed into the building, which cracked masonry. It's continued to degrade, and at this point, we're recommending that that brick be removed and replaced before things start falling off at the loading dock area. To dial in more specifically by school, if we look at our charts, our high priority are the mechanical and electrical system, the fire alarm system, and the site, as the site has not been paid due to deferred maintenance for some time. We also have rolled up the construction costs and soft costs in a non-escalated format here. You can see the scale of work necessary. Moving on to Great Oaks. The enclosure around the gym, the skin is spalled off and the concrete cores on the outside skin of the building are exposed. You can see into the structure of the wall along the southeast side of the gymnasium at the upper level. The interior of the school, although dated, does remain fairly functional. However, there are issues with cracks in the slab, outdated finishes, and the bathrooms have not seen a major remodel for quite some time and do not necessarily comply with current ADA standards. We had previously mentioned the electrical system and then multiple types of phasing and service and electrical service, which would want to be resolved. Also, the main domestic water supply is a concern as there is rusting and degradation on the main water service pipe entering the building, and as well as some of the other branch domestic water lines. The middle school, being the newest of your schools, for the most part, does not have a lot of high priorities with the exception of the roof. The condition of workmanship on the roof, leads us to recommend that a further investigation be done with a third-party forensic engineer that can further augment how much moisture is in the insulation within the roofing system by doing thermal imaging, bringing in the roofing manufacturer to assess the warranty and deal with some of the workmanship issues that we have seen. You can see there's multiple patches, there's corner patches, there's buildup of water that's ponding on the roof. So that is what brings us to make that the highest priority for the middle school. And at the high school here, our largest concern were some structural issues that we noticed, in particular at the stair one in the far corner. There are vertical cracks throughout the masonry where the stairwell meets the exterior wall. There's a window that abuts that stairwell that had opened up and was exposed to the outside air. At one point, it's since been re-caulked shut. There are several cracks on the concrete slab on the lower level, and there are other cracks in the cafeteria and along the auditorium area that we feel should be looked at by a structural engineer in detail. So that is our recommendation for structural. The mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection systems are all coming up on the 20-year mark. Where one would expect things to start needing more frequent repairs as things wear out. Again, the plumbing system is seeing signs of rust on the domestic water side. We had mentioned the water infiltration into the oil tank system, filtration and pumps on the mechanical side, they're in the boiler. The fire protection system is starting to see some signs of wear and tear as well, with some outside rusting. And those are the chief items here.
So, at each school, we give you an overview of some of the construction costs for all the items that we've seen, what the construction costs. And we hired a third-party estimator, Pan American Consulting. We gave them reports. We met with them a couple of times, as did our engineers, just to go through and dial in and make sure that they were properly understanding the scope and looking at photos, et cetera. So we've given you construction costs and soft costs and total costs. What we haven't given you is any escalation numbers. So then what we've done is we've taken all the schools, we kind of looked at all the individual scope items and plotted those out over a 10-year plan, just to try and not only balance things throughout those 10 years, but also look for efficiencies to say, okay, if we have roof problems at a couple of schools, maybe we can do a roof project, we can concentrate on roofs one summer, maybe get some buy in bulk and get some efficiencies there, or deal with code issues, site issues, et cetera. So working with the district or working with the rest of the design team, we've plotted these out over a 10-year plan, and we've given you kind of the highlights for year 1, year 3, year 5, and year 10, and balance those in between the schools of our initial recommendations. Obviously, as you're doing capital planning, as you're looking at major projects, things are going to move here and there, but we did not include in the original numbers, we did not include any escalation. So that if you're trying to do your capital planning, you pull one of these reports off the shelf and look at your priorities, reprioritize from year to year, take off things that have been addressed. But then at this point in time, looking at a whole, we have added escalation just to say, if you were to plot these out over the 10 years based on our recommendations, these are the kind of numbers that you're looking at overall. And with that, I'm sure you have a lot of questions or comments or things that you would like to ask. So we'll try and address those as best we can.
So, Bobby?
You mentioned the workmanship multiple times on the middle school and the roof. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus here, but when that, I mean, that school's 4 years old. Things were just not done properly? Is that what you mean by workmanship?
I won't say that there weren't any design issues. I would say that there possibly that things that we would have done differently or could have been done differently. But on the whole, based on the performance of the system this early in its lifespan, it just leads, things were not installed properly. That's why we're suggesting to have a third-party forensic engineer come out, give a thermal scan of the system, get the manufacturer out here to comment on the warranty and the workmanship. We looked at the specifications for the project. We asked questions. We spoke with facilities staff just to get a better understanding of how things were done during the process. But we thought that the instructions in the plan design were pretty clear of what should have been done. It's just what happened from that point to your end product. So that's what leads us to say it looks like a workmanship issue, but you should take a little deeper dive on that and see, what issues may be being caused and what could have been done better.
Just to follow up real quick. I noticed in the plan that you talked about Westfield. I noticed in the plan, you guys discussed the artificial football field. Could you explain what the issues are with the football field?
I think this was largely in talking with the maintenance staff that has been dealing with issues, but the age of the field and the track are done as one system with the drainage, the under drainage underneath, and it's all kind of tied together. But we believe there were some failures in the drainage.
So, in our discussions and in our review of field and some of the quotes that we received, it appears as though when the drainage system was put in, the filter fabric, the landscaping cloth, was either not installed properly with insufficient amount of drainage gravel around those pipes, which has led to them silting in and being prematurely.
So that's down at the turf field, that's not at Westfield.
Correct.
So
The Westfield is.
They have drainage issues as well over there, correct?
Yes, but different because of the types of soils.
Right.
That they have, backfilled with over there.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
So you mentioned, that the priority at the high school is structural. I mean, should we be concerned that, that part of the building will collapse or, if there's a structural integrity issue?
No, I
Okay.
don't think we're at the point where we would need to condemn the portions of the building.
You never
However,
know.
not knowing, exactly the cause of the, cracks in the masonry, the fact that it affected the exterior skin. There were some reports that it may have been from an excessive snow load that we had in 2011, where a structural engineer was brought in and things were corrected, but they seem to be in multiple areas of the building, and those could just be simply settlement cracks, but they do run up to the second and third floors. So rather than make a recommendation on the first review, where we did not have a structural engineer on board, the recommendation is to bring a structural engineer in to find the soils recommendation, the civil reports, and review the construction drawings against what we're seeing. And perhaps there will be a way that they can determine the ultimate cause of them, and then whether repairs would need to be made, or whether they would just simply need to be aesthetically repaired.
So.
Sorry, go ahead, keep going here.
So, so you're saying that also the roof is an issue at the high school. Was it a partial roof that we were?
This is an EPDM roof, that's a rubber roof, which is glued and sealed together. The issue is that those roofs typically last 20 to perhaps as much as 30 years. We're at your 20-year mark. So when we did our 10-year plan, we started to phase in placing the roof as part of that work, so that we don't get to a point where we have water creating the building. And then you do have issues. You want to get ahead of that. Do your design, bid to contractors, get them to buy and phase it over a number of years so that they can work through it. If to defer the cost unless the board said that they would like to bite the bullet and rip off and replace the roof all in one summer and pay for that. It's one large stuff. But our tack was to level the playing field on the budget so you didn't have any large years that would spike the requests.
Thank you.
So, given the issues that we're currently going through with Quaker Farms and it goes. My question is, what should the priority be? I mean, we're looking at our youngest kids here in those two schools. And we're with the QFS kids, they're gonna end up having to go to school extra days when other schools are closed. So in terms of priority, do you have a recommendation for priority, or is it just kind of like try and get everything done within a capital improvement budget or our own budget so that we can take care of things as needed? Because right now, Quaker Farms and goes it's a priority, at least in my opinion.
And the electrical issues, adding a generator at Quaker Farms, replace a transformer and decommissioning the boiler were priority on the list. All those things were listed as in poor condition prior to this event. We knew it was coming. But there was an active project to replace all those. Unfortunately, it bridged over the coldest snap that we've had in the past 8 years for a 2 week, throw of sub-freezing temperatures. So unfortunately, we've been bitten by this one. But that has been and would still be our recommendation to do those. In particular, generator, because you do have sprinklers in the building, you are reliant now entirely upon electrical power supplied from the grid. If you get a generator in there, should you lose power, you could lose sprinklers as we've seen. Your fire alarm control panel, it's controlling your alarm systems wouldn't function. So those were major items that have been identified, and those are earlier in the cost spreadsheet.
In general, I would just say, in talking with Michael, that we were in alignment, that your priorities, besides those individual items that we listed, your priorities should keep the buildings dry, temperate, and safe. So that's why we're really looking at the envelope, we're looking where we see potential structural concerns, and we're looking at code items. Those are the top 3 things for us, and then after that, you're gonna get, into the weeds on, particular items. And then aesthetic issues got further down the line.
Deb, you had a question?
Well, like from reading the report, because we got the report ahead of time, there's concerns because Great Oak, it's not even close to compliant with ADA. It's like, well, at least that's what the report looked like. So that should be a priority. It's like, if it's not even ADA compliant, I don't even think it reached 1 out of a scale of 4.
Right, but ADA compliance is predicated on whether the fact that there are any modifications being made to that particular element. So if you have a door that doesn't have an approach to it, and you're not replacing the door, you're not doing any work by the door, it's grandfathered in until such time as you do work on that door. Once you start doing work in that door, that area, that bathroom, what have you, then you need to make that new work compliant with current code. The fact that it was built in 76 and compliant with 1976 code is sufficient until you change it.
Yeah, but how long do we work with,
It is a concern, on the way we were saying, except for the ADA issues, Great Oaks has served the town very well. I mean, the condition of the building in general, the materials are made, its durability, its lifespan, it has and continues to be very good for the town. However, it does have the detraction that it was designed around 1976. School model approaches to doors and buildings and bathrooms, and that changed in 1991 with the introduction of the American Disabilities Act.
George, you had a question?
Yeah. It's the first I've heard of problem with the roof at the new middle school. It's, very disturbing for me, as someone that, worked pretty hard to get that school put in. I don't know, how did this problem manifest itself, do you know?
Well, there's been numerous amount of continuous leaks in the building since the very beginning.
I'm sorry, yeah,
There have been a number of water infiltration issues over the years.
okay,
It's never really been dry, as one would expect from the beginning. And even noticed that water is constantly flowing out of the overflow scuppers. Water should not be coming out of overflow scuppers unless the roof is ponding water. In an emergency situation, it's a backup system. What seems to be flowing continuously, so that between that, we look at the photographs, if we look at the history of repairs, if we look at the fact that the overflow scuppers aren't working correctly, there's clearly issues with that roof.
do you think it's a question of workmanship?
I think that there's a lot of factors that are part of it, and looking at the number of patches and looking at some of the original building conditions, it hasn't held up for 4 years.
You know, I don't know why the town wasn't informed of this. It should be, we would have, pursued the warranty on it. And I'd like to do that immediately.
George, when we accepted the contract, I think there was a lot of conversation town in regards to, that was one of the concerns we had for accepting it. We did a lot of work, O&G came out, I don't know if it was a dozen times or even 24 times, working with us, bringing out engineers. I forget the, Deb, do you remember the gentleman from the town that worked with us for the building? Bob Sly. Bob Sly worked with us, worked with the vendors, worked with the engineering that O&G provided, and we fixed it. It wasn't, I don't know if it got to your office per se, but it did get to town hall as we worked before we even signed off. That's why there was many delays for us to sign off on that building, because we had grave reservations of the middle school.
Well, we still have the warranty.
Yes.
And if we're having leaks, we don't wanna sit there, with a building that costs $40 million with, pails getting water. Let me know, the extent of it, the amount of it, like to have a report on it, and we will pursue it under warranty. O&G is the general contractor, and that's an honorable firm. They actually fixed the, if you recall, I know you do. Originally it was gonna cost us $500,000 to fix the flashing around the library. And I called them up and I didn't threaten them, but I said, there's a warranty issue, and they fixed it for nothing. And it's disconcerting to say the least. And Arnie, correct me if I'm wrong, we have had no inclination whatsoever about the existence of this problem.
Correct.
And, I think that's where we proceed and go from here. I don't know whether we need a forensic engineer or structural engineer, whatever, if we need that for litigation, fine, but we shouldn't have to litigate it. If you show where the leak is, they should fix it. And if they don't fix it, then we litigate it, which may mean a new roof, but, when I see that line up there, it's, all those lines should be underneath. The one, it's a brand new building, so, please, on the Board of Ed, pursue that and appreciate that, and we can get going on it. We'll get it done. Secondly, my question, I guess, to you, Mike, is, we had this survey done 10 years ago. How much of that work has been done? We look at it.
I know I wasn't on the board in.
No, I know that.
But, I believe we did extensive work at GOES. I think we did some work at Quaker. I think for the old center school, the district opted to not do too much investments because we were looking to phase out of that building. That 10-year survey helped us propel us to build the middle school. So that was one of the outcomes, and some of the work was done on the high school. I wouldn't say we hit 100%. I don't think anyone ever hits 100% of a 10-year plan.
No.
But I think it was prioritized, and I don't have a percent number, but I believe it was well past 50, 55, 60%, especially dealing with the new middle school. That certainly helped us overcome many of the major issues we had at the old center school.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in keeping up with it, and, something, Jack, I think the Board of Finance should consider. And we have to make a rational approach and set our own priorities on this. Obviously, it's a great help to have the, architect, your firm do what they did. They certainly opened my eyes tonight. But I think we should, add, we need to be proactive. And I think that the problem that we have in Quaker Farm School is showing us a lack of being proactive. I don't need to see the roof collapse. We gotta address that.
I have a question. Looking at, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 10-year estimates. Can you paint a picture from your knowledge, and you don't have a crystal ball, but let's say we do nothing for 5 years. I'm not recommending that. I don't think anyone on the board or the town would recommend that. But in 5 years, what could we be facing 5 years from now based on your findings? Like a worst case scenario.
Just to give you, an overview of how or give a little more insight on how we do our studies. We do this based on a 20-year life cycle. So, low priority is years 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 15 to 10 to 15, 15 to 20. So and most of your systems in your buildings are a 20-year life cycle. It's, you're gonna have pieces and parts go, but overall your systems, like when we were talking about the roof before, 20 years, then you should be planning for, replacement. So anytime you see something getting into this range, that should be addressed in the next 5 years. So if you don't do those items that are in this range and the highest priority from, some of these areas, those are the things that we're concerned with. So there's your enclosure, Quaker Oats. It's, your Quaker Farms getting to your mechanical and your fire alarm are coming up in that range as well. So deferred maintenance items, especially if these are areas where we're talking about keeping the buildings dry and temperate and safe.
So you'd say of the buildings, Quaker or GOES would be the most impacted in the next 5 years.
They certainly have more issues spread out overall, but you do have, issues at the high level that need to be looked at. In particular, middle school certainly has one issue that, yes, we'd all like to see that below 1, but we cannot define findings. Right, and that's what we found. And therefore we prioritize it highly. The high school, again, coming into its middle prime years, it's going to need some work. Before things do start to peter out and fail, could you lose a mechanical system on an air conditioning side in the summer and work through? Could you lose a mechanical side in a deep freeze and have issues with certain wings or sections of high school? It's possible. So again, without a crystal ball, I can't tell you which one is going to fail first, but I can tell you the things that we prioritize are the things that will cause you the most problems immediately.
And of these buildings, I looked through the study and I don't see anything that indicates it, but at this time, do you recommend any of our buildings be replaced?
We do not recommend at this point in our findings that any buildings be replaced. We do have a cost comparison with a large round graphic. We call it the Death Star. And that shows the overall cost of building a new building at about $525 a square foot versus the accumulated cost of repairs with non-escalated dollars. And the recommended repairs in every instance are less than the cost of replacing a school. So that's the very last two pages of the executive summaries for each of the buildings.
And I do want to say that overall, we think the maintenance staff is doing a good job. Things come up, there are going to be power failures, there are going to be, individual pieces and parts that blow just like on your car. But it's just planning for obsolescence, it's planning for end of life of systems that are our main concern right now. And then with everything else in here, if you get into the weeds of our reports, you look at each individual item under all these scopes, and there are things that, capital planning, they're gonna be able to take care of, making sure that their service contracts are up to date and getting vendors in here when they can. The routine maintenance things, I think they're pretty much on top of, it's just planning for these end of life issues.
So, and I'll get to this 1 second, Sue. So would you say, looking through how you break out your categories, none of this is for superfluous or for cosmetic. This is for structural, this is for the integrity of the buildings, mechanicals, the electricals, things like that. Would you agree with that?
Correct. Again, the three priorities: dry, temperate, safe. Meeting current engineering standards, looking at code issues, safety issues, and looking at the longevity or whether there's any longevity left. Again, that the one wall that goes, you have a section of wall that needs to be addressed somehow because it is in failure mode at the moment. Is water getting in the building? It's behind the custodial closet. What's your priority on it? I'm not sure, but I can tell you right now that if it's deferred for 5 years, you may have openings to daylight through that wall, due to freeze thaw, issues with water.
So that's one on the back side of the gym.
So you had a question?
Yeah, the slide a couple down, we had all the numbers over the different years. Is that like if we defer, or is that the cost of things according to that time frame?
That is the cost if you stick to the plans we presented.
So, like go through Quaker Farms, like in year 1, 2 million, that's like what happens in 2 and 3, 6 and 10?
So, and that's all outlined in the spreadsheets.
And the estimates which are included with the individual reports. So we've taken all the issues that we've found and we've spread those out. We've prioritized them based on our rankings. So in year 1, we're trying to hit those, those first 5-year items as best that we can. And then we're spreading out because in some cases where you have maybe issues at schools that you have a lot of first priorities, just trying to spread those out so you're not getting the bulk of your costs right away.
It's like some of them are, so like in the, I think 6 and 10, the middle school is down to 790,000, but the high school is up to 15 million. Like,
It's a younger school.
oh,
The younger school. But again, if I'm just looking through briefly, picking out some example items, we have masonry repairs that goes. We have window and caulking issues that goes. Again, that goes with the envelope, keeping us enclosed and warm. We have some small issues with floor cracks that can be repaired for tripping hazards and code issues. We do have some maintenance items in there that will be generally taken care of in your standard budgets. Plumbing issue is a large one, electrical issue is a large one. Addressing the fire alarm system, even though you replace the fire alarm control panel with a brand new modern computerized electrical fire alarm control panel, none of the fire heads, none of the horns and strobes have been updated, so they're vintage, and they're talking to a brand new system. So when the fire department goes in, they can see that the building is in alarm. But the middle school, they'll be able to say, oh, the alarm number 23 in the next room is going to alarm, let's go there. As
And
opposed
that's,
to just driving on
that's
site.
plan, that's a phased plan, so the first part's been done, it's just getting to the second part.
So things like that are. Bring up the safety.
So I have a question for, when I look at year one and I see Quaker, 2 million and change, was it 2.8? Where in the paperwork would I find what falls under one for Quaker to get to that dollar amount?
Spreadsheet will break all of that out for you. If you look at each of the individual sections under mechanical, electrical, we have, similar charts that show poor condition, fair condition, good, excellent, that correspond to certain year timeframes to do work, for obviously needing work done the first 3 years.
On the far right column, the spreadsheet, I'll track your.
So, I don't have an example, but, you know, to the left, we have the description of the work, right? Then we have a breakdown of what is entailed in that particular scope of work, right? Then we have our summary of the costs, and then we have years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 10. And those costs are lined up in the particular years in order with the prioritization. So you'll be able to see that in year 1, you go down the column, bottom, you'll see a summary that should rack up to the 2.8 million for year 1. On this slide, years 2 to 3, you have to go down to the escalation value further down the sheet that would show you how that accumulates. But the idea, again, is to identify the issues and those things that are not immediate priorities are addressed in order of their coming of age to ameliorate the cost so that you don't have everything in year 1 that's a poor priority issue. You know, those are broken out over the range that you would have for an issue that be addressed sooner than later.
Thank you. Brett, Board of Finance.
Yeah, so from a board of finance perspective, you're identifying almost $9.5 million year 1. Are you saying, since we're not gonna have an opportunity to speak with you directly, are you saying that that's an absolute must that needs to be taken care of within the next year or 2? From the town's perspective, to get these schools dry, safe, whatever it was you said. So essentially, there's an immediate need for almost $9.5 million.
We've observed all the buildings, we've identified the issue. This is, and by the way, this is a lot of data, I get it. We've tried to boil it down into our little USA Today thing with our charts and graphs to make it palatable, but, and not to make light of this. But based on our recommendations, and we're objective observers, we don't have to worry about finding the money. We don't have to worry about prioritizing what to do first and all of that. From our objective standpoint, we've identified the priorities and we've tried not to, again, even when we've seen things that need to be done in the next 5 years, we've tried to spread those out and make this a little bit more balanced. If money were no object, yes, this is what we're recommending. Is it all gonna happen? Are you gonna be able to get that money? No, you're just like any other municipality we deal with. Money's always an issue. You're gonna have to spread things out. You're gonna have to, put in Band-Aids for a couple of years until you can get to that larger project. But, based on our recommendations, based on getting something balanced, this is $9 million is what it would cost.
But over the course of 10 years, those numbers add up to roughly $80-90 million, $76 million.
And that's with escalation, obviously, over time.
Yeah, so if you did nothing though, you're still just putting things off that can continue to get worse, thereby costing you even more if those issues that weren't addressed cause further issues within the schools.
Yes, so if you don't take care of that leaky roof, that's gonna filter down, it's gonna affect your finishes, could even affect structural items, et cetera. Yeah, so it's, in a sense, it's compounded interest over time.
And then there's the effect upon the ability to school. It's basically.
And at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about. It's, you know, it's the staff, it's the students, it's the people who use these buildings, every day.
Thank you. Jack, Board of Finance.
For the past 3 years, the town has put into Quaker Farm School, we put in $5 million. We put into, Great Oak, over $5 million. We put a roof, about $6 million. Into the high school, we did the pools, we did a lot of things there, we put in about $6 million. Listening to your report today, I feel like, did we waste that? Did we waste that money that now all of a sudden, what we did, just take the bathrooms. You know, we thought we did a great job getting them to be usable. Okay, they were a disaster. We got them back to be usable. I don't know if they are ADA or reliant, okay? But we put a lot of money into this in the last 3 years to get these buildings up. Some of them are old buildings. We have a brand new building. And yes, I knew about the leaks. I told the school board, they came to me, I knew about leaks in middle school. I said, that's a contractor's, we got a warranty on that, get going back with the contractor, get that fixed. I don't think that's our problem, that's their problem, okay? Well, we put a lot of money into it already. Now you're telling us all that money, forget about it, we gotta keep going, okay? And it's a problem, that kind of is what we did in the last 3 or 4 years in those schools, is that for nothing?
No, it's not for nothing. It's like having a teenager. It's like filling the fridge and coming in the next day and it's all gone again. It's a
Well, we
constant.
thought we could at least get another 5-year life out of these things, okay?
Sure.
Because we can't be putting $15 million a year into maintenance. It's almost impossible.
No, and I understand that. But, you know, this is one of the biggest investments this town has. It's these 400,000 square feet of building. And yeah, you're gonna touch pieces and parts, but over time, just trying to keep up with that on a 20-year cycle, there's always something that's gonna need to be
Oh, I
done.
grant you that. And every year, we're there to fix that, okay? We're there to probably handle $1 million, $1.5 million. And of course, emergencies and emergencies. Okay, and I always prioritize by emergency all the way down to nice to have. You know, and I go down that scale, okay? So I would work off of that scale and what we need. Cause, you know, we're coming back up with a budget. We just put, more money. We put $5 million into their computer hardware system. Okay, so I mean, it's not like the town is turning its back on these buildings or anything. We're there. I think our Board of Finance has pushed a lot of these things to get them done so we don't have these in the future. But now you're telling, you know, come back and say, by the way, that's nice, but, you know.
Quite frankly, you know, we're objective observers. We don't know what's done in the past. We're coming in and taking a look at this building and assessing its current needs today. And then we're not talking about aesthetics. There's things, we're not talking about replacing ceiling tiles or painting, and that's other things that are gonna need to be done year after year. In addition to these things where you're planning for the long term.
So I don't think that we would recommend that if you just bought brand new computers in 2024, 2025, that they're a year old, have a need to replace and spend another $5 million on. We would say that in 5 years, in computer technology, you may need to start considering replacing them, so that by year 7.
In 5 years.
That's our approach.
Well, we do, you know, what we're gonna try to do is have money put away each year to build up, so we have a maintenance budget for these 4 buildings, and we also have the town building, you know. Those aren't the work of art themselves, so we got the town buildings, we've got, you know, a lot of problems.
And this is intended to be your
This is
guidelines.
it. So I thought we bought 5 years on these buildings, Quaker Farm, I know the problem, but I thought we bought 5 years in maintenance, at least on Great Oak and Quaker Farm. That's the way I thought, we put a lot of money into it, we put a lot of time into it.
Sir, have you been in the buildings?
Huh?
Have you been in the buildings to see the
No,
water?
I didn't.
Sorry.
I'm not, I'm
Go
just,
ahead.
just to address some of that, and Jack, it is a very good point. We have put a lot of money into roofs at some of our buildings, in the HVAC systems at, Great Oak, as well as the work that we're trying to do at Quaker. Those aren't, I don't believe, driving points for this $76 million investment that is viewed as for a 10-year plan. the number would have been higher if we hadn't made those investments for the roofs, for the HVAC systems. The number would have been severely higher, in my opinion. That was work that was needed, and it wasn't that we have to redo it. The roof at the middle school, it's a combination between installation, material, and plan, and we will get to the bottom of it. We aren't gonna wait 10, 20 years and have that fail disastrously in our buildings. But it's one of those, I think the analogy of the fridge, I have twin large boys, and you fill the fridge and the next day it is gone. It's an unending cycle, and it's.
I know that, I know it's an unending cycle, but I thought we did at least to start it off. Or in fact, at least I call it usable, okay? The schools aren't a work of art, but if you saw them even bring up 5 years ago, you know, it was a complete disaster. We brought that back to where it is to the level today. I see what you're saying to go forward. Just like in town here, 17 years ago, the roads were a disaster, okay? So what we did is, instead of get a bond, they do one road for a couple $1 million. We did is we spent $1 million a year for 17 years, so that's $17 million. The roads are in decent shape. Okay, the roads, our roads are in decent shape, you know, have large potholes, they're very drivable. And that's how we did it. This is how we should take this plan. So put so much away each year for, like I say, with the priorities, keep going down, okay? And try to keep ahead of it. It's tough, because they're big buildings, some are old buildings.
And that is the thrust is to see what is coming and when, so that you can evaluate, determine your own priorities, as to whether you are going to put money here or there, but at least you are aware
We got a guy
that there is a roof that is coming up on a 25-year warranty. Are you gonna stretch to 30? I don't know.
I appreciate the guide though. Just what you have here, right? It gives us a roadmap to go forward, so we don't keep having surprises every year. By the way, if this roof leaks, the pool leaks, diving towards the guy, it's gone. So we get a guide to go forward, try to figure out exactly what we want to do. I appreciate that.
Anyone else have questions? I'm sure we could ask questions all night long, but does anyone have questions for prior architecture? At this point, Dr. Marino or Mike D'Agostino, where do we go from here? What is the next steps?
I would say we go back to facility committee and really do a deep dive into this thing.
Hey, I have a quick question. Do we have any preventative plan for the schools, like being in prior years, like the past 5 years? Is there a plan for maintenance? Like what we're doing, what we're getting done from like internally, like Mike, do you have a plan for that? Like something that you could show at some point, like a specific plan each year, what's being done maintenance wise? I'm just curious what's actually being done, because we can just look at something and just see like the building is getting taken care of, but what's actually happening in the like long term?
Yes, we have checklists and we have a scheduled plan of when filters need to be replaced or when regular maintenance should be looked at for certain items, yeah.
And do we have like a preventative plan to prevent? Yeah.
That's what I mean by that.
Got it.
We could dig more into the facility subcommittee. So at this point, I think we've gone at this pretty solidly. I want to thank Prior Architecture. You did a great job. I appreciate the level of effort, and I'm sure if we have questions, we'll be in touch, but thank you for coming out tonight.
Sure, absolutely, thank you, and if the facility subcommittee has further questions as you get into this, we'll make ourselves available to drill down.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Presentation of communication audit plan.
Well, good evening, everyone. As we're going to review shortly, goal number 3 for the district board goal this year had to do with communications. And this evening we have Ryan Langer. We requested votes to conduct this audit and to draft a plan for us. We started this a few months ago, and we're very excited to have Ryan here. Ryan is on the executive board for the New England School Public Relations Association. She's also a communications officer for the Great Britain School District. So she brings a lot of experience and talent the field of school communication. So we were very excited to have her conduct our audit, put the plan together, and she's here this evening to review it. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Ryan. Can you hear us okay? You're okay?
I can. Can you hear me? Great. I actually still don't have access to present the presentation on the screen. I don't know if you guys have it, if you can see it visually there. Okay. Thank you for that introduction. Sorry, what did you say?
Try to share again. You just made your co-host.
Now I can.
All right.
Okay, give me 1 second.
I think it's still not working.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it to go. I also did drop the presentation link in the chat if that's easier for you guys too.
Yeah. Ryan, we're pulling it up here. If you just want to let us know when to switch slides, okay?
All right, perfect. Thank you.
All right.
So
You will need to go.
thank you. As Dr. Marino said, I am the communications officer for New Britain Schools. We communicate with we have about 10,000 students and 1,500 staff members. So on any given day, we communicate with about 23,000 people, nearly 1 million people per month when you include our digital platforms. I'm also the membership coordinator for the New England School PR Association. And I think that both of these pieces will really help me share the feedback from your audit tonight and ground our recommendations in broader best practices. We can go ahead and flip to the next slide. So tonight I'll walk through how feedback was collected, what we heard from the Oxford community, and how that feedback informed a recommended 3-year plan to improve school communications in Oxford. Next slide, please. So as you all know, effective communication is the foundational to trust, transparency in your school community. And when your broader school community trusts you and knows what's going on, it will help your board agenda items and your district priorities and decision-making process. Next slide. Sorry. So we collected feedback in a number of ways in Oxford. I was really impressed with the engagement that we saw in our digital survey. So we used a digital survey throughout the community, and we hosted 4 community forums. So the digital survey gave us a lot of patterns and trends, and then the community forums, even though we had lower participation, gave us a great opportunity to kind of hear the experiences behind that data. So I do think that we come to the table tonight with a well-rounded picture of what communication looks like in Oxford. Next slide, please. All right, so getting into the data a little bit, our participants represented a wide range of roles. This is the breakdown from the survey. We had parents and guardians, staff, Oxford residents without children, students, administrators, and Board of Ed members. Thank you to the Board of Ed. We had an exceptional response rate for both the Board of Ed members and the staff group. The Board of Ed members was at 100% participation. We did have a strong response rate for parents and guardians percentage-wise when you think of the greater. I know 251 looks like a lot, and it was a very strong rate. It was over 15% when you account for the census amount of people in Oxford. We did have a low response rate for students, community partners, and Oxford residents without children in the system. So I did include a lot of their data tonight, but I did not, it didn't guide our recommendations strongly. So when we look at their data, it's kind of just for you to keep in mind what those people are thinking, but it's not a broad enough accounting of people to be able to make recommendations off of. Next slide, please. So looking at our overall percentage of communication, this chart shows that many rated the district's communication as very well or somewhat well. At the same time, it points to where we might have some space for growth. So communication is working, but not consistently excellent. Next slide, please. So now we'll get into the 6 key findings of the audit. One of the clearest patterns in the data is that families and staff feel very informed about what's happening in their school buildings, much stronger than how they feel about the district level. So principal emails and school-based updates were consistently cited in the comments and in our school surveys as extremely helpful and reliable. About 87% of families feel either somewhat or very informed about their school, and 53% chose very informed. But we see that number flip when we compare the district to the school. So the takeaway here is that there's a little bit of a breakdown between district communication and school communication and how families are perceiving how they feel informed about that. Next slide. So this, our number 2 of 6 is that finding information is a common challenge. So across the surveys and forums, respondents shared that even when information exists, it can be difficult to find quickly. About 14% of survey respondents reported finding information is somewhat difficult, but anecdotally, and in the comments of the survey, this number was much higher than 14%. It often came up the most in the comments and in the conversation in relation to the district website. Not being able to find staff directories, updated information, calendars, policy, basic contact information. Improving findability is one of the most impactful changes that the district can make at this time. Next slide, please. All right, so families want to see the updates differently. I know I said that they really like that the school communication coming from schools, but there's a number of ways in this presentation that I'm going to talk about how they also have some changes that they want to see in what that school communication looks like. So they're very clear that they want the frequency of weekly. They want weekly updates to continue from the school, and they want to see weekly updates from the district as well. However, when we think about those school communications, many in the survey and in the forum share that currently those messages feel very long, repetitive, hard to scan, oftentimes new information at the bottom instead of the top. And they're having a hard time getting the most out of the newsletter to be as helpful as it can. They like the newsletter, they like getting it, and they like that their staff are putting it in, but they're not, they think it's difficult as it currently stands. Next slide, please. So there's a lot of really interesting data on this slide. This is how families want to receive information. In the blue, we see the current method of how they want to receive information and how they report it in the green that they prefer. So email is still the primary and most trusted communication channel across all groups. I know all of your school principals and your district leadership is using it right now. Social media is viewed as a helpful amplifier, especially for celebrations and reminders. Many times people brought up they want to see those celebrations, but not as a replacement for official communication. They don't want to rely on social media, but they want to see district things celebrated there. As I said, many are not finding the information currently on the newsletter. If you look at that newsletter icon, it's really interesting that everyone really raved that they're happy to receive the newsletter. But it's not a current method of where they're getting their information, despite being one of the top ways that they want to get their information. You can see that big jump between the only one blue, you can barely see it, and then the green. Another interesting point on this chart is the mobile app was one of the top 5 most listed ways people prefer to receive their information, but it's not currently a channel the district uses at all. Many people referenced in the forum's experiences, either in districts that they work in or in previous districts before moving to Oxford, having a mobile app for notifications and updates, and it's something that they would like to see. So I think this data might be an opportunity for Oxford to be able to consider to modernize their tools and kind of put everything together in one place through a mobile app. Next slide, please. So this is our 5th of 6 key findings. This comes back to inconsistency across schools and tools. So families and staff both described variation in how communication is handled between buildings. Different platforms, different expectations, and different levels of detail can cause confusion, especially if you have children in different schools between the secondary level and the elementary level. I think this is a really interesting point. About 37% of families in the survey reported that they rely on word of mouth for communication or family-led Facebook groups based on their peer groups. Amazing that you have such community input and community passion to start those groups, but a little difficult for the district when you think about consistent sources of information, controlling your own district narrative, putting out the information that's trusted and what you want to be circulating around the community. So putting all those things together, you're going to see some recommendations from me in the 3-year plan regarding how we can scoot away from relying on those word of mouth gaps, and also how we can align those resources across schools and across platforms for greater consistency to improve equity and reduce confusion. Next slide. All right, so this is our last of our 6 key findings, and there's a lot of really good pieces of information, I think, on this slide, so I'm going to take a little bit more time on it. On the left, you'll see what stakeholders want. I don't think probably anyone's really surprised about this. They want to see progress updates, they want to see the strategic priorities, they want to see celebrations, and they want to see superintendent visibility. On the right side of the screen, the data breakdown is interesting. So 100% of school administrators reported that district level communication enables them to lead their schools effectively, which is what you want from your district leadership. And 89% of board members reported that the frequency and format of communications from district leadership meet their needs. Those are great data points. But then we see a big drop to only 56% of board members feel that that they feel like they have the information they need for Oxford strategic and priorities regarding strategic priorities and progress. So I think that this data tells us a lot. That's a significant gap between the 100%, the 89%, and then dropping down into the 50s. When I look at this, it tells me that we're missing a district narrative and a district voice in Oxford, and you're missing it because you have such a strong internal communication, and we're not seeing that turn to the external piece. So if all of your leaders feel so equipped to do their job and do their job well, where's the breakdown for how we get to the outside? And I want you to know that the takeaway here is not that leadership communication is weak. The data tells us the opposite. This is an opportunity for external translation, where a designated communication specialist could play a critical role by helping turn that strong internal communication into clear external communication. So while effective communication is a leadership tool, really while effective communication is a leadership responsibility, managing communication systems is a professional function that a communication specialist could take on for your district. That was a lot of data on that slide, but I think it really drives a lot of the recommendations that you'll see from me next. Next slide, please. So when we take a step back, really all 6 of those key findings really drive home the point that clarity matters more than quantity. Our families trust the email. They want to see updates to the website. They prefer a mobile app. Both the tech side between the website and mobile app could be your new front door. And that the consistency builds confidence, and two-way communication strengthens that trust. Next slide, please. So now we're getting into the 3-year communications plan. And I've really built this plan into strategies for year 1, year 2, and year 3 around these 2 goals. So the next few slides are going to be only about goal number 1, which is to improve clarity, consistency, sorry, we're jumping around, and access to district information. Next slide, please. Okay. So year 1 really focuses on making those improvements. And I think there's a couple slides here about year 1 because there's a lot of good work to be done. The first thing I think that would be a strong move would be to designate a district communication specialist. This could be someone who's the lead here, part-time or full-time. And this role is not about taking over all of the school communication. It's about coordinating your district-wide communication with your school communication and maintaining standards and templates for those school administrators who are putting out that weekly information so the information is consistent for your schools and your community. Next slide, please. So this is some of those functions that I was talking about earlier. Many of this work is like you need a communications professional to focus on this. because it's a lot. So some of the different pieces that I think need to be focused on year one would be that website and that social media presence. So really prioritizing where the key family information is on your website, highlighting your budget, your initiatives, your awards, good things that are happening, and really starting to use photos and videos to tell the Oxford Public School story. All three of those things would kind of combat a lot of the key findings that we found, such as people relying on word of mouth, people relying on parent-led groups, really for you guys to be able to control your own story. The newsletter should be another targeted approach for year one. How can we make those more cohesive? How can we provide templates to district administrators? How can we make sure that we're kind of following the same standards? Similar to that, if you roll out anything like this, your administrators are going to need tools and they're going to need follow-up and support with that. How are we writing for today's audiences? How are we organizing our newsletters so that they're scannable, so that families can get what they need out of them quickly? One thing I want to mention while we're talking about your admins and your staff that I didn't say before, I was really impressed in the community forums and in the comments how much it came up that while it was hard to find information, once they found a staff member's contact information, they had extreme success in contacting the individual and having them return their questions, calls, whatever you have me. So it's not necessarily a staff issue that you have, it's just finding their information. And lastly, I think another year one priority would be to look at, you have so many current contracts that really touch school communications, whether it's School Insights for your website, Power School and School Messenger, Blackboard, My School Bucks. There's so many redundancies here, and many of these contracts could be combined, maybe to one vendor, maybe two, that could do a lot of this work without having so many different vendors that could all do a little bit of the same thing. Next slide, please. So if you do that well in year one, then the number one goal of year two would be to continue that systems review. It would be great to launch a district communication system anchored by that district mobile app as your digital front door. One vendor could connect everything so that your website's the same, your mobile app's the same, your social media, all the information is being pushed out to all these pages and formats in the same way, in a consistent way. A communication suite like that could also handle all of your urgent messaging, such as, lockdowns, anything like that, emergency change of schedule, snow day, as well as your two-way communication if that's a direction the district chooses to go. Continuing to strengthen your storytelling and your transparency. We touched on in year one that we really need to start using photos and videos to tell your own story, but really getting deeper into what those district initiatives and progress is. The few people from the community that answered the Oxford the survey that are just community members with no children did speak about wanting to hear more about the board's priorities and the budget. So you do have people that want to have a voice at the table with you. Next slide, please. And then finally, obviously, would be any good plan to follow up, make sure that you are refining and optimizing the district's communication suite, making those constant changes, always wanting to update the information to keep it timely, and just make sure that we're sustaining our efforts. Next slide, please. And the second goal is to create those clear, appropriate pathways for two-way communication. In year one, next slide. In year one, we'll focus on transparency and trust. This would include publishing a clear engagement pathways that shows how questions or concerns move from the classroom to the school, to the district leadership, to the board. There was some confusion there from families, and a lot of putting more information on your website could probably help solve a lot of those issues. Next slide. In year two, it would be great to expand those pieces. So many people that attended the community forums came to the forums not just to talk about communications, but to ask if they could talk about other things too. They were very happy that the communication forums were taking place, and they mentioned that they would like to see additional initiatives like this, talking about other district initiatives. You might say, well, what about public participation at the Board of Ed? That did come up in the meetings, that some people feel a little uneasy to come to a Board of Ed meeting and share their opinions, and they would like kind of a community forum first. Next slide, please. And then by year three of this kind of engagement should just be normalized into the decision-making process. This communications process is just one example, but I'm sure you have many different initiatives, such as your facilities plan that I just saw you talk about, or whatever it may be, to plan other opportunities for engagement, forums, informal social media channels, live stream, whatever it may be. But the community wants to be a part of it, and I think through all these ways you could in a very strong way. Next slide, please. So this is a lot of work to take on in the next 3 years, but I think you have a lot of opportunities to be successful. And I think it would look, there's a little picture of what it would look like to be successful in the next 3 years. So families and residents would really understand your priorities and be able to support them, be able to back them. Board members will feel confident that district strategy is clearly communicated externally. Principals will feel supported, not burdened by communication expectations. We would also expect fewer follow-up questions caused by unclear information and stronger engagement during key moments like budget development and major initiatives. Next slide, please. So thank you for the opportunity to engage with the Oxford community and share these findings. I'm happy to answer any questions or review any part of the data, the findings, or the recommendations in more detail.
Okay, open it up to the board. Any questions?
That's wonderful. She did a great job. Thorough. I think it really outlines where we need to work at. And as a parent, I think it will just strengthen us as a community, and it's a great plan.
Any other board feedback? Brian, I think you did an excellent job. I appreciate the presentation, the time, the effort. It was very detailed, and speaking for the board, I just want to thank you for the effort, and I look forward to where we take this, the results of this, and what we do next.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity. It was a great to meet with so many of your community and residents.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Brian.
Hey, we're on to budget because this meeting is jam-packed.
You got it, okay. The finance committee has been hard at work. I think we've had 3 or 4 meetings since our January 6th presentation. So we're now at the point where we're bringing back our work, our discussions, where the budget's at, with the hope that the budget will be voted upon at the February 24th meeting. So I want to applaud the committee. We've had some long meetings, some great discussions, really kind of deep and digging into it. So Noah's here this evening to give us an update. You have the updated entire new packet for your binder. So it reflects all the changes that we've made since January 6th. So Noah, we'll go through the PowerPoint and then we'll answer any other questions.
Good evening. I'm going right along with more exciting news for the district. So you all received a new budget book. We'll be posting that, sharing with the community tomorrow. A few new items that are in here that was requested by the finance committee. We have a breakdown of the middle school classes period by period, and the number of AP courses at the high school along with their enrollment, and also a analysis of the number of administrators for Oxford versus, I believe it's 15 to 18 other similarly sized school districts. All 3 of those were done by Dr. Mullen, so I thank her for her time and effort on pulling all that together for us. And then we also have 2 slides in there illustrating GOES math scores as well as Oxford middle school math scores. That was another thing as the board looks at bringing back a STEM coach for the K-5 grades. So we're, again, just a little reminder of our budget priorities. These have changed, but only so slightly. We did remove one for next year. Not that it's still not a priority. The additional bus run that Dr. Marino was looking into was determined that it would not be beneficial to the district. We found out that that the district was within policy, the board's policy for pickups, and also that adding the other bus run would not help alleviate and move up some of those, or move back rather, some of those pickup times for some of those students who were getting picked up close to the early time. Yeah.
So, sorry to interrupt, Noah. I had mentioned before publicly that my daughter was being picked up earlier than district policy. Having a conversation with my wife, that is not true. She is being picked up within board policy, and I'd like everyone here to know that, so that there's no pushback on what I said. I was incorrect. Sorry, no.
So again, this coming year, we're aiming to address additional needs for our special education, our K-5 learners. Obviously, following up with, our recommendations from our communication audit to strengthen our, bonds and communication with the district, and look for ways to continue to increase our, employee retention and employee culture in the district. Our budget assumptions have largely stayed the same. Did receive an update, last week from our insurance broker that, the 16.3%, they still feel comfortable that we'll be pretty close to that number for our increase for the health insurance. We still, have, we're close to 6 of the 7 collective bargaining units being settled. Our tuitions have been confirmed again this week, based on current enrollment for those students who are outplaced from the district, as well as our general education who will, choose to go to VOAG and similar programs. And then we made sure, once again, going over with our building administrators and our department administrators, that we have what's needed for next year, and not, keep as much fluff out of the budget as we can. And obviously, we keep watching to see, what's going on economically with inflation, tariffs, and things of that nature. So the big updates, obviously, we did not need the additional bus run. There was a correction in the insurance waiver calculation, which was on the district-wide, medical insurance line. That was a matter of, interpretation on my part, of, we actually only have a handful of, staff members who use it, and I had gone by everyone who doesn't take insurance and qualify for it in the district. So it was significant savings. We also updated a couple of known retirements we have for teachers who are on top steps. We still kept those positions because they are specialized positions, at around the 11th and 12th step. But there was a bit of savings there. Also in review, since, with the our custodians, year over year, their increase, an assumed increase for this year was budgeted in a separate line, so fiscal year 26 current year we're in. So assuming settlement this year, that is budgeted for this year, so there's no surprise there. But trying to pivot that into being captured in the correct budget lines for next year, I realized that I only counted for 1 year, not 2 years. So there was an additional adjustment there. And then we, in review with our PPS director, we came to realize that the CEP transitions program teacher, there's a teacher who leads that program that is split between our district and Monroe. We're still hammering out the final details of the document, but it's a mutually agreed upon split for that person for salary and benefits. That was not in next year's budget. Because, and it is in this year's, it got missed because of how we shifted things this year. Because the initial thought was it may have been personnel may have been in Oxford and then we would invoice Monroe, but it's actually the other way around. So all of that nets out to about a reduction of $223,000 or negative 0.62%. So that's where we go from our initial presentation at the budget workshop of 6.41% to where we are today at 5.7. And then this is an update for the budget drivers. So all of this gives you an idea of where our expenses are. This is again updated to reflect our current position. We do want to draw attention to that yellow line, that year over year flat, we are just under 3.7% without making any changes to our programs. And then all the new items that we have are below that yellow line that account for about $770,000 of, new expenses. So that's how we got to our current line. Happy to answer any questions on any specifics or generalities. Finance Committee has been meeting pretty much weekly, and we have at least one more, scheduled meeting between now and, hopeful, consideration on February 24th of the budget by the board.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that the finance subcommittee has been working very hard. Every board member has made it to all of the meetings, weekly meetings, and we've gone through line by line every single area, from the schools to facilities, special education district. And we questioned every number. We questioned large increases, we covered large decreases. When they shifted from one cost center to another, we were exhaustive in that aspect. So I just open it up to any questions that anyone has. We've exhausted you with questions. We've buried Dr. Mullen, Dr. Marino with questions and additional points. It seems like we've exhausted.
I just have a couple of things, but I just wanted to make sure everybody can, we've really worked on the staff utilization report. Do them to make sure that we can support all the positions that we have. And so it's very clear to understand if we have, I know there was a question about the on and off class sizes, number of sections and things like that. So we went through all of that. And we heard a few comments from the community about, that's why we added this, the administrator analysis in here. Because we've heard a lot of comments that were top heavy, but if you look at the analysis for it. So we wanted to make sure that what we're putting out there to the community and the Board of Finance gives them the information of why we are where we are. And I think that everyone's comfort really in the members. There's a lot of time and appreciate the number of questions that were answered because I had, and everybody answered them very well. It was had great conversations.
Bobby.
Something that came up at the RTC meeting and something I think that board members should be aware of is if you look at, I'm not sure where it is in the budget, but total number of students is projected to go, we're at about 1,600, a little more than 1,600 right now. I believe it's by 2032, we're gonna be over 2,000. So I think it's important that everybody understand that, because it will affect budget. You know, you add 400 more students, that's gonna be a big effect. And that's gonna happen over time between now and 2032. Can I get that number right? No, is it 2032?
2035.
35? Yep, okay.
That's can be found on page 81 and 82 for the book. It's the enrollment analysis.
We made sure the pages were numbered, because I know that's an issue when we get to the word finance, so they made sure they were numbered.
Any other questions? Thank you, Noah. Okay, moving on to mid-year review.
Yes, okay. Back in the fall, I think it was September, we adopted 5 board district goals. When we established those goals, we said we would do a mid-year check-in. So Dr. Mullen and I will give you an update on those 5 goals. And you have a copy coming in front of you right now. So if you look at page 2, you can see the 5 goals, key drivers that we are focusing on this year. All the conversations that we're having with our staff, and as we develop our own evaluations, we'll talk a bit more about that, focuses on these 5 areas. And these are the 5 areas that the board, supported and really thought we would, in our first year together, Garen and I, that we need to work on and what the board thought. So if you look at key driver 1, That focus on high quality instruction and leadership, as you know, we are in year 2 of our district's evaluation plan that pertains to administrators and teachers. We've been working really closely with our administrative team to make sure that we're meeting the plan, that the correct number of observations are being taken place, the goal setting at the beginning of the year, but there's specific deadlines in our evaluation plan. We met those, the November 1 deadline, to have an individual goal established for all teachers and administrators. And as of now, we have 50% of our observations done for our certified staff. And all of our administrators have had at least one. And it's not just the instructional side. We're also holding our non-instructional directors and administrators to this system. So we're all on it together, including Dr. Mullen. So she's in it. And I already observed her with a meeting. So we're walking the talk with it, that it's important that we have this district approved evaluation plan, that we're actually implementing it, and that, you know, we're all being held accountable with our pieces of it. So right now, our goal at the building level and at the district level, you see the last bullet there, we have to have a mid-year meeting, goal meeting with every teacher and administrator by March 1st. So we're working diligently to accomplish that goal. We're confident that we will do that. And also we'll get the other 50% of the observations for our teachers done when school ends in June. So we're in very good shape, and I really applaud our administrators conducting them. It takes a lot of time to do an observation, but it's really important to give that feedback to our staff and for us as administrators evaluating our administrators that we supervise, giving them feedback on their performance throughout the year. So there's no surprises at the end of the year when you know, we have the end of the year meeting and goal evaluation. So that's goal number 1. I'll let you take goal number 2.
Goal number 2 was around positive school culture and climate. So as we talked about at the beginning of the year, new state statute had us implementing the Connecticut school climate policy this year, and you guys were kind enough to take care of that work before I got here and make sure that we had that policy on the books. So our task was really implementing it. Our building administrators had worked over the summer to really start understanding this policy, and it is lengthy, it is cumbersome, there's a lot to it, and so implementing it was really going to be, we knew, a lift going into this year. And I will say that our buildings have gone into that challenge just wholeheartedly to take that on. Each school has developed a school climate committee that consists of building staff, of parents. The staff includes teachers, paraprofessionals, really anyone that wants to be involved. Students at our secondary levels are on those committees. Those committees meet and they determine goals for the building. A lot of our buildings are focused on improving school culture and climate. So at our younger levels, they're talking about how do we make the mission statements and vision statements that are more representative of our schools and that our students understand. And we're carrying that work all the way up through the upper levels. Our NEASC work ties in really closely to this work at the high school. So some of the indicators that we've been talking about in terms of the NEASC work are really aligned with the school climate work as well. So in terms of our progress with this, I'm pleased to report that not only have we adopted the state policy, but we're implementing that policy across the district. All of our schools have formed that committee. They've written school climate improvement plans. Those had to be submitted and approved by me in December. All of our schools met that deadline with ease. The next steps for us are going to be to continue this implementation, and I think understand how it interfaces with other systems that we have in the building. Some of this is going to be living by experience of, you know, what the forms that the state has come out, all of that, and that's going to take us a little bit of time in just living through it. But I would say that, you know, at this point in the year, we are in a very successful early implementation of the new policy.
Mike, can I ask a question with you? Sure. So this time last year, we were really concerned about this.
Yeah.
We were concerned about the volume of stuff that was gonna be happening, the paperwork,
Yes.
how everything was gonna be like shuffled along and make sure we're doing everything. Has the volume of the paperwork, the complaints, has that been less, or has it exceeded what we thought was gonna happen, you know, a year ago?
Well, I wasn't a part of those conversations, but being a part of those conversations in the previous district that I was in, I would imagine it was similar. You know, we were worried about what this impact was gonna be in terms of burdensome paperwork, and I will say that I don't think that we're experiencing it to the extent that we were. I would attribute that directly to the way that our school principals and administrators and teachers work with families, because we work really closely with families. I think our response time has been great in really challenging situations. And families, you know, I think for the most part know that, you know, when tough things happen, we're communicating with them and we're working through it. Does that mean that the paperwork doesn't exist? No, it does. We really streamlined what that process looks like. Anytime there's a situation, I'm notified directly by the building, and we work through that together.
Just to follow up on that, do you think the hire we made a hire at the elementary schools to share an assistant principal? Do you feel that that's had a solid impact for us being successful with this goal?
100%. Karen Drager has been instrumental in the work both at Quaker Farms and it goes. So to the position, yes, and to the person, yeah.
Okay, goal number 3, key driver number 3, we just had a presentation on it. We are working really hard to hit, the objectives of this particular goal. So, you know, I'm not sure if there's much more I need to add to that since we have a presentation on it. Key driver number 4, the teaching and learning framework. This is a goal that, we were thankful for the board that allowed this goal to be in place, with both Garen and I being new. It really gives us the opportunity to do a lot of observations, have conversations with people, observe, really be the beginning of mapping out a strategic operating plan for us. So I know that we had that conversation at the beginning of the year, like, you know, we kind of like asked the board for the gift of time to get our sea legs and get in here. So we do appreciate that, but I'll let Garen, you could add your pieces to it. And then
Let's back it up the next slide.
next one.
Yep, thank you. So the teaching and learning framework, a lot of this is going to be building towards, I hope, a wonderful conversation at the end of the year where we can talk about the state of our schools, and then, you know, get our talks about developing a real strategic operating plan for the district to move our work forward together. This work has been, I think, to echo what Dr. Marino said, I think wonderful for us to be able to engage in, not only with Dr. Marino and his staff chats and his work in the building. I've been doing ongoing walkthroughs, regular building rounds with our building administrators. I've been meeting with all of our administrators, building and district level, to talk about strategic planning. And those conversations are really about what are the strengths, what are our areas of improvement, what are the fires right now, what are the current priorities? And if you had a magic wand, right, what would your department or building or program look like? And all of that together is going to give us a guiding path towards what professional learning we need to put in place in terms of a strategic plan, what this really needs to look like from year 1 to year 5 of a strategic operating plan for us to build together. And then last slide, next slide. Perfect. Yeah, perfect, yeah.
Yes, and then the last key driver, again, we had a presentation tonight. So I appreciate the time that our architect firm, but also Mike D'Agostino and his team, and the facilities committee too. So there's a lot of work to be done. It's a comprehensive report, so we're definitely have to give it its time and then reflect on what we've already prioritized, what we did before getting this report, and kind of reconcile it. We did adopt our own urgent items back in January, so we will do that in committee, and if we have to make any revisions, we'll figure out what the process is to inform the town of that.
One last item. So just what's coming next in terms of leading us to the end of the year. We will continue progress towards these goals. These are annual goals that we developed. Those evaluation action items that Dr. Marino talked about, will be completing our mid-year meetings. We'll be completing all of our teacher and administrator observations. We also have end-of-year meetings, summative evaluation meetings at the end of the year. That's part of our evaluation plan. As we look at our communications and facilities, as we talked about tonight, we'll need to determine next steps in terms of the communications plan, in terms of the facilities plan. That climate work will be ongoing. This isn't going to end this year. Whatever our future goals are, this climate policy involves school climate improvement plans with goals each year, year over year. And so those committees will work on those, and I expect to be able to report out a lot more view on what's going on in terms of our school climate plans and those goals in the schools. Another opportunity this spring will be that all of our buildings are going to be looking for opportunities for school community meetings to be able to share their progress towards their goals and share out some of their work. They have been doing that in small ways and in newsletter ways. However, we want to make sure that in order to meet the threshold of the actual policy, we are doing that community outreach as well. And then lastly, in terms of a June outlook, like I mentioned, we'll be looking to develop a state of the schools presentation, towards the June or summer, and then talk about the beginnings of development of a strategic operating plan, which I'm very excited for.
Any questions?
I think it's a great year report. Appreciate the time and effort you put in. It's funny how, the timing for tonight, couldn't plan it better, so,
Just happened.
alright. So no questions, I guess we'll move on to the RFP,
Yes.
school-based counseling.
Yes, as you recall, back in the fall, we had a presentation, by one of the, clinics here in town. And then subsequent to that, we received some additional interest in providing school-based counseling. We've had 3 meetings, with interested, clinics or, counseling centers. So it really forced us in conversation with council is to develop an RFP. And I believe we initially had this conversation with curriculum committee and then went to policy committee. So now we're at the point where we want to bring back a finished product to the board, have a conversation and make sure there's a comfort level there. Because of timing, this would not happen this year. This would take effect in September. But in order to go through this process, we would need to get an RFP put together. Tonight we have a draft, have you approve it, and then we will issue it out here. So just want to make sure when we spoke about a committee that we really felt was important to come back to the full board and have a conversation before you go any further with it.
Do we have anyone from curriculum or policy that wants to provide feedback? If it's gone through your subcommittees? Any concerns that your committees had, or?
So we just wanted to make sure that we opened it up to everyone and didn't want the decision of just 3 members overriding everybody else.
We started there. Did we start there? And then we can go, somebody said take the policy.
Yeah, it definitely gives policy.
Yeah, this curriculum has.
Here,
At least I don't remember doing it.
It's been a long, first half of the year. So at this point, I mean, does anyone have questions for Dr. Marino or Dr. Mullen?
Are we voting on whether we're gonna do this or not, or are we voting on an RFP?
I think tonight it's just the presentation, but I think for the next meeting, the goal was to put it on for.
right, this is the template that we want, that it's the accomplishing, we work with council on it. We reviewed it at policy committee, so yes, then we would need to approve it and we would issue it out and then bring back a recommendation, I think sometime in May. I think is our deadline, May.
But like Bobby said, we haven't actually voted on the fact that we want this yet.
Right, that's why we felt we wanted to bring it back here to see, this is the time to talk about it.
Yeah, this is a really bad idea. In my opinion.
Board members, just raise your hand now, Paul.
This is a really bad idea, in my opinion.
I'm not on board with it either.
So how is this different than the high school? Is it different?
No, this is, they did the initial
Oh, so-
presentation, but after that presentation, we had additional, counseling centers, want to provide services. So it got to a point where we spoke to council, it was like, you need to go with an RFP process, a vetting process to make a selection and a recommendation to the board.
I mean, as a person who is currently getting therapy for their children, the idea of it being in school based sometimes is convenient. I think it offers a lot to parents I just have concerns like parent involvement, how much are parents involved, like what some of the parents process in that. But for me, I feel like it's a great thing to offer the community. It's a service that our parents need. And I think it would reach a lot of children who maybe can't go outside of the home and get those services late in the evening or anything, and we're providing a service that really uses it.
And I don't know if the board knows or not, but we had an agency here for 3 years on a grant. So like a $300,000 grant. It just ended, I believe, this past June. That was fully funded. We didn't have this, I don't know, the state grant.
They weren't like a private practice or they're.
It's actually one of the
insurance.
three that are interested in submitting submitting on it again.
How does that work? They have an office and.
Board, just raise your hand, I'll gladly call it.
Do they have an office in each school?
Yeah, we would need to provide in-kind services, so it's a space and a phone line.
And they're getting that,
Great. Bobby,
and are they getting that for free?
Yes. Phone in a road.
I just want,
Stacy,
when the lady spoke, she said that she puts it through insurance. Is that how it works?
Yes, because that's how they need to make their money.
Bobby,
What level of involvement and what level of knowledge do parents have? And do they even know if these kids go into the college?
Well, we were
Yeah.
looking at the three vendors, we met with them, but in order to submit an insurance claim, I'm guessing the parent would be notified. That's the only way they're gonna make money. They're not getting any money from us. We're just providing the in-kind services, but they need to build the insurance, otherwise they're not gonna do it.
My experience in services like this, there's a parental permission form that goes on.
Stacy.
I have a friend who works in a system that had this. And, she would tell me about how students would go to the counseling session and not show up for class. And then they were unable to call the counseling room and say, is so-and-so there? Because it was privacy, so they couldn't say where the child was. And she said, always was a problem. They just didn't know where to go.
Bobby,
My concern is that this is, looking at the agenda today, this was the first time that I've heard about this since November. So lack of communication is a concern for me.
But this is just to put it out there for other bids, right? That's what this means, like to get other people who are involved.
Yeah, because we have multiple entities that are interested in providing the service, so we, our conversation with council is that we have to come up with a process to interview them. And then also make a recommendation to the board. We would probably, I'm not sure which committee we would work with, but we would need to work with.
Well, what would be the basis for choosing one? Usually when you're doing an RFP, you go for like the better deal, but since there's no money involved, like who's determining whether one counseling service is better than the other counseling service?
This is the challenge of an RFP like this. We've already been told by our attorney, we're tough. But again, we had an agency in here for 3 years. I have not heard anything negative about it. So, but again, they received money from the state, so I don't know. It was a lot of money. So, but right now, there's 3 that are interested in it. We had that conversation in the fall, but we really can't go through this process. If there, a majority of the board that does not want it, we can't go forward with it because it's just misleading people. And it's gonna take up a lot of our administrative time going through this process and people filling out this packet and submitting it to us, So, we need to have this conversation. If people need more time to think about it, we can put it on the next workshop agenda if we want, but we really can't go forward if there's not a board majority for it. It's not fair to the vendors.
I have a question. Do they operate independently? So do they follow our board policies? Do we have the ability to set reasonable expectations? Because there's some parts that are medical, like they have, child privacy and things like that. But can we indicate, like, you need parent permission? you need, there's a process that before a child is brought into the program. Can we set standards or can we set edges and boundaries? Or are they just an entity that operates independently that just has space in our building? Because to me, that's a concern is, are they an entity of themselves or are they an extension of the school? A resource that we provide, but that we have oversight within reason.
Yeah, we can find out what their rules are, what they were looking to do. But like, for example, I wouldn't support someone cutting and missing a class. We have to work around the student's schedule for that. So, but again, the agency that we had here, we only heard good things about it. So I don't know how they navigated the scheduling of it. So, but again, we can ask about regards to parent permission and parent notification.
Yeah.
So you can't bill, someone's insurance without them giving you the insurance card?
Correct.
So the parent would have to somehow provide insurance.
Without knowledge of what's going on in the thing.
No, I'm saying you wanna know, the question was whether or not parents would know. Of course, because their insurance is gonna be billed. But I think that parents should be should be involved in knowing what's happening with their child. I'm not saying I think the program is not something we should do it. I think we need a little more,
But I just wanted to circle back. When Hive approached us, you guys did ask administrators if they felt this was something worth pursuing, and there was a desire to have this service available for students.
Yes.
Okay.
Bobby.
Handing over an insurance card is a whole lot different than having knowledge of what's going on with your child. And this is a hard no.
Stacey, you look like you want to raise your hand.
Well, I just don't understand how it would work. So who refers the child to the counselor, the parent?
So the way that I've seen it done,
So the
is
parent,
that parents or school support staff can make a referral. They would talk to, like, let's say I'm a school support staff, like I'm a school counselor, school psychologist, and I would like to refer your child. I would call you, talk about what's going on, say, hey, we have this resource. Would you like me to make a referral? Here's what that looks like. And then usually send home like a referral paperwork with a parent permission. And then whoever the person from the counseling service then would call and say, oh, thank you for signing this permission. This gives me the opportunity to talk to you. Let's talk a little bit more about what's going on. That's only been my experience outside of Oxford.
okay, so from that point.
Yeah.
If it's recommended an hour a week, say. I mean, because there would have to be a limit of how much time is out of the classroom.
Yeah.
Right? So say an hour a week. How does the adult in the classroom know when that child, because isn't that a privacy thing? Like if Johnny has to go to counseling, should I know about it as his teacher?
Right, so.
And how do I say, it's 9 o'clock, Johnny, you gotta go to counseling? I can't say that. So how
Right.
does that work?
So I haven't experienced issues with that in any school that I've worked at. And because kids have schedules and kids have a lot of different things that they might hope for during the day. I haven't seen an issue where somebody didn't know where a child was and they weren't able to call and they weren't able to find the child. I think we would need to, I worked with multiple different companies in different districts and they've all done it different ways. So I don't want to generalize it to say this is how it is because larger companies that I've worked with work in very different ways as school-based health centers than smaller companies.
I just, and we'll keep going with questions. I'm gonna recommend that this goes not to the vote for next board meeting, but that the next time it comes on the agenda, we invite the building admins who have experienced this, especially with the 3 years we had a grant paid for counseling. to give us how it has worked in their buildings and what they're looking for this to be successful. I think if we've already had it, it's worth hearing them out and hearing out what their needs are, because the admins obviously are supportive of this. They want something. The board wants to hear out what they have to say and how it's been implemented in Oxford for multiple years. So do we have any other?
For me, I have been on that receiving end of the 3-year grant and having a child go through that process. It is exactly as Karen explained. I filled out the paperwork, the admin came to me and said, hey, let's look at these resources. We utilized them. It was wonderful. To answer your question, the counselor and I had a little sesh after, just like, hey, we covered these bases. X, Y, Z went down, like, here's where we need to focus. It was very inclusive. Like, I felt very good as a parent. Like, I had a full understanding of what happened in the session and vice versa. My child was comfortable. They were happy in convenience. So, but the paperwork was, all came to me. I knew everything going on. The teachers were already in cohesion with it because they knew like X needed a little bit of help. And so they were like, okay, they're going to be counseling this day. We have this, can we try and schedule it at this time? It's like, just so that they didn't miss out on big classroom things too. So I found it to be a very positive experience from a parent side of it, and it was very informed and I felt communicated fairly with.
So we'll put on the, okay?
Well, it's a little bit different than hers. You wanted to add to that.
No, I was just gonna clarify with, Mike, just to make sure I got it right. So we'll put on the workshop, the March workshop meeting, invite the admins. So that's it. We'll get the feedback. That'd be great, gotcha, okay.
Alright, so if there is a problem with, so if there's a kid who needs this, like, basic therapy, right, or counseling, and the problem is the parents directly at home, how would that be approached? Or is that a different set of, that's just a different process entirely?
We have that happen because they go have a conversation with their counselor now, if there's a concern at home. But this is a resource that has to go through the family insurance. That's the only, we have to give that access, so, because they need to make money, so.
Right, so it would be a different process.
Yeah, I mean, there's conversations that happen between student and guidance counselor, school counselor now. But again, this is gonna require involvement of the parent to make it work. Because it is, they're trying to make money.
I think we're good, and I think we'll get more information from the schools and continue the conversation. So at this time, we're moving on to audience of citizens. Are there any comments on workshop topics? Citizen. Three of them. Okay, hearing no comments, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting? We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries.